So it's official, we live in the future. It's weird, but we're here. I mean, if you had told me just a few years ago that I would be sitting here today playing Spider-Man for the PS4 on PC with a DualSense controller with full adaptive trigger support, everything, all the bells and whistles, I would have said you were out of your mind, but you know what? Here we are. Now, I was pretty skeptical of whether or not I should actually go through with this. I don't know. I played through Spider-Man. I don't know if I need to go through it again, but a lot of you guys recommended that I try it. A lot of people have said that this is an amazing PC port, so I figured today we would try it and see what it's like so that you can evaluate yourself if you think it's worth it. In addition, I want to touch on one big thing that data miners have found in the code for this game. That's right, data miners scrub through files and packets and code and crap, I don't know how it works, and figured out something that really is pretty important when it comes to the future of PlayStation games on PC. So make sure to watch through the end because we're going to talk about it, and I think it's got some big implications for what games come in the future and what that looks like. As always, if you enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell down below to get notified of new videos when they go up on Mondays and Fridays. And of course, I'm live over on Twitch at this very moment. So if you're watching the video on the day it comes out or on any other Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm over on Twitch at this very moment. Come over, say hi, hang out with me. We do this type of thing just for like 4 or 5 hour stretches. So if you like these videos, I think you'll really like the stream. So come over and say hi. I would love to see you. And of course, before we get into it, a big thank you to our sponsor. Today, our sponsor is Wondershare Demo Creator. Was that cool or what? I think it was pretty cool. But do you know how to make something like that? Well, it's very, very easy with Demo Creator. Wondershare Demo Creator can help you create and stream more engaging, meaningful virtual video presentations in just a few clicks. For example, here we can do start a new demo project and demo and record mode. And here you can import slides, share your desktop, or you can even use your camera to record an in real time 3D avatar of yourself talking, even lip syncing and everything. Another thing Demo Creator can do is it can allow you to live stream as well. You can stream to YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook Live, Discord, Skype, Twitch, you name it. The whole thing really is designed to be as easy and intuitive to use as possible. So if you aren't a techie person, or maybe if you're just getting started and you want to figure out how to work smarter and not harder, this is a great place to start. And to help inspire a new wave of creativity, Demo Creator is actually running a fun little contest. You can join by sharing your videos with #PresentWithDemoCreator, and they'll pick winners who will get a year subscription to Netflix or a $50 Amazon gift card. Not to mention that their video will even be featured on the official Demo Creator channel. So give them a shot today. The link in the video description box below. Check them out. And again, share what you create with #PresentWithDemoCreator so that you get entered in the contest. And again, links in the description box below. But okay, with that said, let's get into it. Join me at the computer desk. Whoa. Just so you know what I'm running this game on, I'm running a 5950X. I have a 3080 in the PC. I believe 128 gigs of RAM. I don't remember if it's 128 or 64. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think it's 128. It's been like 2 years since I built the PC, and I don't remember, if I'm being honest, what I chose to do. So I don't know. First world problems. But right off the bat, I got through the tutorial section so we could just focus on some of the fun and not have to worry about the grind of learning how to swing and all that. So right now we're probably 2 hours into the game, I would guess. And we have the city open to us. We have our new suit, and it is just as beautiful as I remember. More so, actually, because it looks even better than it did back in the day. So back when the game was running on PS4, it was rendering at like 900p at 30 frames. It was very, very limited, and it didn't have a lot of power to drive it, which is part of what made the game so impressive, is that it looked tremendous for running on hardware from 2013. But now, running on PC, you can see we're running at 1440p. We are averaging about 120 to 130 frames per second. And in general, it looks really, really good. Now, the big benefit you got from playing the remastered version on PS5 was the load times, because you were running off of the PS5 SSD, and it was just lightning fast if you play this over there. But on PC, it's actually pretty close. We're running on an NVMe SSD ourselves. It's not quite as fast as the PS5, not because of hardware restrictions, but just because of software optimizations. But all told, it runs pretty well. I don't feel any severe hitching. There's a little here and there, but nothing that bad. Let's try this. If you guys remember, these missions are all over the place. Like, it is a little ridiculous how many of these little carjackings are repeated throughout the city. Like, down to the same exact cutscene playing out. I screwed it up. But by the time you're done with the game, you'll have done this probably 20, 30 times. You know, back in the day when I played this for the first time, I kind of was a little hard on it because the city is beautiful. It's very well realized. The population density is great. Graphically, it's great. It's a full realization of New York City, and it looks really, really good. I mean, it's not one-to-one, but I mean, come on, you can't ask for everything. But the bummer is that there's not actually as much to do here as you would have thought. So there are, of course, the main missions and campaign missions that you would expect. But other than that, we have like backpacks to collect, which are just collectibles sprinkled throughout the map. They have small story implications and reasons to look for them there, but not a whole lot that's super interesting. I found a few. I mean, if you know the story of Spider-Man, most of these are going to be like fun little doodads, but nothing really worth spending hours hunting them down, at least in my opinion. We've also got our apartment. We have all sorts of other little side missions and things. We've got the Octavius Industries area over there. And as the game goes on, you'll unlock other things that you can do to pass the time, but it's nothing too varied. It's not like you've got a ton of different side missions or quests, or like back in the day with Spider-Man 2 when you had the pizza like delivery missions. If you guys remember that and the song that would play incessantly. Here, Jacob, editor, man, cool guy. Put in right here a little snippet of the old school pizza delivery missions from Spider-Man 2. It'll blow your mind.
Don't be late. Don't worry, Mr. Aziz. These pizzas are in good hands.
You made it, and on time.
Wasn't that great? Like, I miss it. You know, why didn't they do a pizza delivery DLC? That would have been tremendous. Most of the side activities that you'll be performing in Spider-Man, even remastered, is going to be dynamic encounters with enemies performing various crimes, whether that's they stole a car and they're driving through the city and you have to stop them like we just did, or cases like this where there's a bunch of fairly gentle thugs beating some lady up, but very respectfully without causing a lot of harm. And it's fine, but I mean, again, after 20, 30 hours of the main story, it does start to wear on a little bit. But thankfully, the game doesn't really overstay its welcome. I mean, so many games nowadays, they feel like they have to provide 100 hours of content in order to be worth buying. But Insomniac understands that you can just have a couple of really good systems, let them get played out all the way through to their fullest potential, and then you can just carry on and it's not a big deal. Unfortunately, many studios don't understand that. They just find a system and then they drive it into the ground and beat it like a dead horse. I mean, look at every Assassin's Creed game from the last 5 years and every DLC for them. They're just more of the same, but for 100 hours at a time. So once you're kind of done with the gameplay loop, you're done with all of the games. But I mean, just the swinging mechanics in this feel so good. It's ridiculous how well they managed to do it. I mean, I thought Spider-Man 2 back in the day was kind of the cream of the crop when it came to these swinging systems, but they really nailed it in this game. And I mean, it's a good thing too, because expectations were high. But let's swing all the way to the other side of the island and talk a little bit. So Spider-Man Remastered, they improved a lot of random stuff. They also changed the design of Peter Parker, so now he looks a lot different. Here's a little side-by-side, Jacob put that up, of what they look like before and after the change. Apparently the change was done because they wanted to better utilize like higher fidelity facial rigs, and the old character model wasn't supported and didn't look right when it was imported into the new system, so they decided to just create a new Peter Parker and go with that. It's weird. I'm gonna keep it real. I mean, if like in The Last of Us remaster from 2015, I think it was, if they just totally changed how Joel or Ellie looks, that would have been weird. You know, it's just odd. I get that there was probably a technical reason why they needed to do it, but it's still weird. But I'm not gonna like throw a fit over it. I wasn't in love with the previous design. It's just kind of a weird thing that happened. I can't think of another case where a studio has needed to change the design of a character's face after launch to get it to work with a remaster. Like, you would think the remaster would be about getting the old thing to look better, not just totally changing it, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just something to note. The other thing they improved with the remaster, of course, is ray tracing, but ray tracing does have its limitations. So for here, let's do a little demonstration of ray tracing. You see in the window behind me, there's a reflection. In that reflection, it shows a few buildings that you see are baked into it, but when you look closer, you don't actually see what's supposed to be there. Across the way is actually Central Park. But in the reflection, we don't see the park at all. We don't see anything. It's the wrong reflection. That's because they use cube maps and different things to trick you when you're going by quickly to see reflections and think that it's an actual ray traced reflection of what's across the way, when in reality, it's not. It's just a generic box that's inside there that matches the camera's field of view and angle so that it looks like you're looking at a reflection when in reality you're not. But if I go into settings and I change the ray tracing settings to enabled, just like that, like that, boom, there, and I set it to like very high, and then let's back out. Let's see what it looks like now once it finishes chugging. Oh my god, it's so bad. Oh shoot, oh my, this was a bad idea. Okay, I just pulled up performance tab. Okay, 73. Okay, it figured itself out. It just took a minute. So maybe it's because we're on this window, but it didn't change anything. What? Okay, well, let's try going to this building over here and seeing if it fixed the ray traced reflections there. Maybe ray traced reflections aren't supported on these windows. No, there they are. So that's ray traced. You see the park is right there. It's a little blurry, but that's okay. I mean, you can't expect it to render it at full resolution, but it is rendering the park. Let's go back over here and try that window again. See if maybe it's just like it was baked into the window and I couldn't see it. Let's see. Yep. So now it's working. We just had to get off the building. But that's what actual ray tracing is. Actual ray tracing where it's rendering reflections off the glass and back out to Central Park so that you can see things even when you're not directly looking at them. But of course, ray tracing has its limitations and it does have its costs and disadvantages. You saw we were running at like 120 frames per second before without ray tracing. Now with ray tracing, we're bouncing between 60 frames and 48 frames. I mean, we're a little all over the place. There's a lot of hitching. And it's because every time we go by one of these windows that has ray traced reflections, it has to render not just what we see on screen, but everything else that's bouncing off of those windows and reflecting back into the camera lens. And it's extremely costly to render that. It's just very difficult. They can kind of fudge it sometimes with this by doing very, very shallow renders where it's not very clear or crisp, but in the back, you can see the reflection off the water. So you can see it's ray tracing, but it's just really low res in effect. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's totally up to you as to whether or not you think it's worth playing with ray traced reflections on at max quality to get, you know, it looking really, really pretty, or if you'd rather have the 120 frames. For me, I don't think the implementation of it is refined enough in Spider-Man remastered to really justify sacrificing half of your frames to get the ray traced reflections, especially because I think in general the faked reflections really aren't that bad to begin with. So I don't mind playing with ray tracing off, but that's just me. So I will say I am noticing some artifacting as we explore the city. You might have noticed it already, but I'll point it out now because I do this for a living and this is what I do. When you stand behind an object that then is between you and a far off object that they're culling, which is basically just a fancy way of saying the engine is not rendering the thing that's behind the object, because why would you render something that's just going to get covered up? It's a waste of resources. And there's some artifacting when you cross between these things. So you see, as I swing the camera across the way, you'll see right along these edges of this big box behind me, you'll see some slight artifacting where little white bars pop up as things kind of snap into view, and then they decide to render it, because before that they're cold, so they're not shown, and you see the skybox instead of the actual building. It's very subtle and you might not notice it, but you can see right as I swing here, right above that ledge, see that little pop of white, that little bitty pop every single time. It's enough to drive you crazy once you notice it. See that right there? Boom, boom, boom. There it is. But I mean, again, is that a big deal? No. I mean, most people are not going to notice it. And honestly, when you're swinging through the city, if that's your takeaway from this remaster, that, oh, it's really cool. I mean, you swing through New York City and you're Spider-Man and it feels really good and natural to explore. And there's full ray tracing so you can see what's behind you even when you're not looking directly at it. But, you know, there's the occasional artifact for culling objects behind other objects. I'm like, come on. Like that one was a little more aggressive. That one you just saw on screen in the middle. Instant replay. So like that was a little more aggressive, but it's something you're going to get used to and your brain's going to turn off and ignore pretty quickly. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's kind of like pop in with NPCs in the distance as you navigate the city. Like, is it there? Yeah, but is it enough to quantifiably alter your experience with the game? I certainly hope not. But earlier I mentioned stuff that some data miners found inside the code for this game that's actually indicative of where Sony and PlayStation is going with their PC ports in the future. Basically what they found were multiple references to a PlayStation PC launcher, which effectively just means that there will be a dedicated launcher for PC if you want to play a PlayStation game on PC. Doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but what that effectively means is that you are going to need to buy these games either directly through PlayStation, or if you buy it through Steam, if they even allow that, it will, instead of launching natively in Steam, launch on the PlayStation launcher. Kind of like if you try to play Red Dead Redemption 2 on Steam, it launches the Rockstar launcher, which then launches the game. So it's not native. Now, some people are going to care about that. Others really won't give a crap. I'm in the camp where I don't really give that much of a crap. It's not that big of a deal to me. I don't find one extra launcher to be like worth raging about, but it's just another case of all of these video game publishers and producers splintering off and creating their own little platforms. It's the same thing that's happening in like TV and movies, where there's a new subscription model and service for every single distributor. You know, NBC has their own, Discovery has their own, History Channel has their own, and it's where we are nowadays. It's like, these are the moments the ray tracing looks really, really good. You see the cranes off in the distance. I turn around and there are the cranes, you know, or I see the plane flying up in the sky. I look up and there's the plane. Like, that's cool. That's cool. Again, is it worth sacrificing half of your frames? That's up to you, but I do find it really, really cool. It really sells the whole city, just that little bit extra. But like, let's be real. What does that actually mean to have a PlayStation launcher for PC? Is it likely that that actually leads to anything notable? Well, I think for one, it shows that there's a significant investment on the part of PlayStation going into the PC platform. That's something you only do if you're planning on bringing a lot more products to the table, because you can't really justify a dedicated launcher if you have 3 or 4 games on the platform. You got to bring more than that. So I would personally expect that they start bringing most of their major titles to PC even if it's on the PlayStation Now cloud platform, they're going to bring a lot more to PC. My personal hope is that we get to the point where Sony sells, let's say, God of War Ragnarok for $70 on day one, which they've already said that they're going to do. But then they allow, say, a $100 version that comes with a PC port of the game on day one, or maybe, 3 months down the road or 6 months after launch, whatever it is. That, I think, would be much more compelling than what it seems like they're trying to do now, which is allow you to buy the game at $70 on PlayStation 5, and then 6 months after launch, bring it to Steam, or in this case, PlayStation, PC, whatever they call the launcher, and then charge you $70 again for the same game, but on PC this time. I hope it leads to interesting bundles where you can play on more platforms, especially because if they also sell it on PC, you could, in theory, get it working on, say, like a Steam Deck, and you could play God of War Ragnarok on Steam Deck, like in a handheld day one. Like, that would be pretty amazing. I mean, I've said it before, I think Jim Ryan, the current head of PlayStation, is much more Tim Cook than he is Steve Jobs. Like, the overall vibe I get from PlayStation right now is that Sean Layden was the Steve Jobs. He's the guy that was able to spot upcoming projects, figure out where they should invest the money, how to make really incredible first party exclusives that define the generation. But he's gone now, and now it's Jim Ryan. And Jim Ryan is a business guy. This is what look at him. He looks like a business guy. Jim Ryan so far has shown that he is really interested in improving the bottom line for PlayStation, but he hasn't shown the same amount of vision, or I would say like talent, in selecting the projects which are going to become truly remarkable. He's just kind of milking dry the other games that were established in the last console generation and the one before, but he's not really doing anything that novel or risky or crazy. Granted, he's only a couple of years into his tenure at the head of the PlayStation helm, but everything about him just screams Tim Cook and not Steve Jobs. And in case you're not aware of what I mean by that, let me just, I guess, explain for a moment so I can try to make my point a little clearer. Through the 2000s, Apple's meteoric rise to success was primarily due to Steve Jobs and the vision that he brought to the table, because he saw what Apple could be and what products they could bring to the table to revolutionize people's lives with the iPhone, with the iMac, with the iPod, all of these things that were fantastically successful. But eventually he got sick and he started to pass off control to those around him before he eventually died, I believe in 2011. And the person that he put in control, and that the board of directors put in control of Apple in his stead, was Tim Cook, who still to this day is CEO of Apple. Now, the reason they hired Tim Cook was because Tim Cook had a background in supply chain economics, specifically managing Apple's supply chain. And the reason that's important is because that was the one big weak point with Apple. Steve Jobs was able to come up with all of these incredible ideas for products and innovations and things that they could do, but he wasn't very good at the business side of it. Tim Cook, however, is the business side. That's what he does. He doesn't sit around and have visions of the future. He knows how to get products from here to here, get them manufactured at low cost, and then distribute them around the world. That's what he's fantastically good at. And as we've seen over the last 10 years that he's been in charge, he's grown it into one of the largest companies in the history of mankind. But that came at a cost, because in exchange for this stability and the well-managed business side of things, in many people's opinion, they lost the vision, because they no longer had the visionary to take the risks and do things that maybe didn't make sense on paper, but were investments in the future, investments in creative risks. I mean, there's no other way to put it other than just somebody that could see the future and take steps to realize it. And as a result, now every iPhone that releases seems like a carbon copy of the one that came before. They like slightly upgrade cameras, they remove a port or two, they take away charging bricks and things in the box and sell it to you like it's something new, when in reality it's the same thing you've had for 5 years. And my fear is that PlayStation's going down the same route, that PlayStation is missing out on what made the last generation so successful, which was sort of bold bets on games that maybe didn't seem like they were going to be wildly successful, but that were, just because Sean Layden had the vision to see what had potential and what didn't, you know? And since Tim Cook has taken over at PlayStation, we've seen a ton of delays. We've seen a bunch of games come out that were, in my opinion, okay. And then we've seen, in terms of future releases, a lot of stuff planned that are just remakes and remasters, which is generally what studios do when they've run out of ideas. Or let me be clear, when they've run out of ideas or when they're looking for a quick cash grab, which many people think The Last of Us Part 1 remake in quotes, is just one such example of a quick cash grab and something easy that generates revenue without much effort. And that kind of taints this whole Spider-Man on PC thing, because it does run really well. It looks good. It feels good. But I think it's a symbol of what the future of PlayStation really looks like for the next 10 years or so. And that is a platform which is not just relegated to one console system, but that spans console and PC. And it does that not because it fulfills the vision of PlayStation better, but simply because it makes the most business sense. I mean, if you're going to spend $100 million developing a game like this, why not sell it on as many platforms as you possibly can? Get as much money as you possibly can from it. It only makes sense. Can't really fault him for that. But when that's the extent of your vision for the company, just to sell the product more, that doesn't comfort me, because that's not vision. That's not the future. It's just business. And you know what? At the end of the day, I really think video games are an art form, and art and business rarely mix very well. They just don't. They tend to butt heads a lot, because in order to be truly artistic, you have to not care what anybody thinks. You have to do what you think tells the right story, or take the chance that doesn't make sense and follow your gut. You know, you gotta be risk taking, and sometimes business doesn't like those same risks. They'd rather have 5 sequels than one bold, different game. And that's what I fear we're going to be missing out on in the future. But to bring all of this back to Spider-Man on PC, it looks great. It runs great. There's not much else to say other than that it's a really well done remaster brought to PC. Like, it's just well done. There's a couple little hiccups here and there. Performance is rough in a couple spots, but as you see here, I mean, the ray tracing looks really, really good. And if you have the hardware to run it, I mean, this game is a dream on PC. It's a perfect fit. But you know what? I think that is a good place to call it. The remaster's great on PC. I can see why so many people have enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to enjoy playing through it some more when the lights aren't shining and getting this room really, really hot. I know our discussion on the future of PlayStation might be a little bit of a downer for some people, but I think it's important to get these things out there, because pretending as though everything is hunky-dory when it's not doesn't help anybody at all. And sometimes I think you do have to express your opinion even when it's not what people want to hear. And who knows, maybe I'll be blown away and I'll end up being totally wrong, and Jim Ryan is like an unbelievably brilliant risk-taking artist who comes out with some of the most mind-blowing exclusives that we can only dream of right now. That's possible. Who knows? All I know is that right now, a few years into his tenure, we haven't seen anything that's particularly interesting. It's just more of the same, and that's worrisome to me. But one thing I do know is that Spider-Man on PC is just the beginning. They're bringing a lot more games to PC, some that people know about, some that people don't know yet, and they're making a big investment in this platform. So if you're one of the Sony ponies who loves having your games exclusive to PlayStation, I would start to get used to the idea that many of the games that have been exclusive in years past are not going to be for long. But that's it for me. Thank you for watching. I love all of you more than you could possibly know. And again, I'm over on Twitch right now. So go click that link in the description box below to join me. Come over, say hi. I would love to see you. Just say like, oh, I just saw the Spider-Man video. What's up, dude? And I can be like, oh, what's up, fam? Good to see you. And who knows, maybe you'll have a good time and you'll stick around for longer. Either way, I'd love to see you over there. And let me know what you would like to see come to PC. I know everybody's gonna say Bloodborne, so let me save you the trouble. Everybody assume Bloodborne. Everybody wants it. Other than Bloodborne, what PlayStation games would you like to see come to PC? Because I think you might be pleasantly surprised at what's coming down the pike. Let me know. I love you all more than you could possibly know. I'll see you in the next video and over on stream right now. Bye-bye. See you then.